Now for a look at what's on the mind of one Chinese blogger today. That blogger is Luo Tianhao, commentator who writes on 163.com. Now, a report recently released by the US Department of Defense called on China to clarify its strategic intent as its military power grows. A swift response from China's foreign ministry called the report groundless and untrustworthy, and it also insisted that China's strategic intent is clear, open and transparent, and it said that the modernization of China's army is in line with its national security and development. As well, it said, as a positive factor in maintaining regional peace and stability. So, who's a threat to whom? Well, there are certainly those in the US who see an economically more powerful and more confident China as a possible threat, and there are many here in China who feel the US is a threat to them. Our blogger, Luo Tianhao, seems to have a different view on who China's real rivals are. Here's what he has to say. Many people think that China is a major threat to the US and will replace it as the biggest economy in the world. But in fact, the US and Europe are the ones China will need most in the future. And China's real rivals are in fact its poor buddies, the other members of the BRICS group, Brazil, Russia and India. What should be realised is that the BRIC as a concept was never to be strategic allies. On the contrary, the competition among the BRIC countries will be even more cutthroat than that found amongst developed countries. China has only about half of the GDP of the US, but has similar resource needs. And there'll be a huge fight for these, as the resources of the entire world won't satisfy these BRIC countries when they are as developed as the US. On the political side, Brazil and India have both applied to be permanent members of the UN Security Council, something that directly challenges China's international status. And Brazil also has ambitions to outdo China by holding the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Olympics. Russia affects China a lot in terms of issues to do with Central Asia, not to mention the long-standing rivalry between China and India. Currently, there aren't that many open conflicts among these countries. That's because they are trapped by their own development. Russia and Brazil are too dependent on exploiting their resources. India has long been trapped by its backward caste system due to a halfway social revolution. The only hope for China to emerge victorious is for it to implement deep-reaching reforms sooner than anyone else. Well, a number of comments followed this post. This first one from a poster called Jia Feiyan. He has this to say. The US and Europe are China's rivals strategically and friends economically. And when it comes to the other countries from BRIC, it's the other way around. Then this net user has a bit of analysis. China does have competition with developed economies like the US, Europe or Japan, but from the point of view of their different types of industry, it's more like a mutually complementary relationship. And finally, some more advice from this net user. I think what the Americans say is right. It's impossible for people all over the world to be equally rich. There simply aren't enough resources. China should figure out its strategic positioning, which is to get rich first and then decide whom to help based on their strategic value.